the unapologetic revolution, breaking barriers, and embracing authenticity. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt like you needed to shrink yourself? Like your voice, your ideas, your very presence needed to be dialed down just to make others comfortable? I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Thiy Parks, a visionary whose groundbreaking work in empowering Black women entrepreneurs has created not just ripples, but tsunamis of change across industries. She isn't just talking about transformation, she's architecting it with every breath, building sanctuaries where authenticity isn't merely tolerated, but elevated as the cornerstone of genuine success. Her methodology has helped hundreds of women reclaim their power and transform their businesses while staying true to themselves. In a world desperate for authentic leadership, Bee Park stands as a lighthouse illuminating paths that many didn't even know existed. Today, I want to share what I learned from this remarkable woman about the revolutionary act of being unapologetically yourself in spaces that weren't designed for you, about dismantling barriers that appear impenetrable, about the quiet yet thunderous power of representation that communicates volumes without uttering a single word. Let's be honest. We inhabit a world with very specific ideas about who belongs where, who gets to lead, who gets to innovate, who gets to take up space. And if you don't fit that predefined mold, well, the world has a particular talent for letting you know. But what if, and I invite you to stay with me here, what if the very attributes that make you different are actually your superpowers? What if the perspectives and experiences that set you apart are precisely what we need to solve problems that have confounded everyone else? This isn't just feel good rhetoric. This is economic reality. This is innovation strategy. This is the future of business. Consider the story of April Showers. Yes, that's her real name. And yes, it's absolutely magnificent. April is the founder of Afro Unicorn, a brand that celebrates Black beauty and self love through character merchandise. If you're unfamiliar with the licensing world, allow me to paint a picture. It's an industry dominated by massive corporations, predominantly white owned, with established characters that have been around for generations. Breaking into this space, nearly impossible. Creating a new character that resonates, even harder. Doing it as a Black woman entrepreneur. The odds weren't just against her, they were stacked so high they blocked out the sun. But April didn't just break in, she made history. Afro Unicorn became the first Black owned, woman founded business to sell licensed character products in major retail stores across America. How? By embracing exactly what made her different. When April started, she didn't have venture capital backing her. She didn't have generational wealth to fall back on. She began with print on demand merchandise, literally creating products as orders came in. But what she did possess was a vision that was authentically hers, creating characters that celebrated Black beauty in a marketplace where such representation was painfully, conspicuously absent. She maintained ownership of her intellectual property while licensing it to manufacturers, a strategic move that allowed her to scale without surrendering control of her vision. Today, Afro Unicorn products grace the shelves of thousands of stores nationwide, promoting Black representation and self love to children who finally see themselves reflected in the products they cherish. April's success wasn't despite her identity, it was because of it. She identified a gap in the market that others couldn't see because they hadn't lived her experience. She understood a need that others couldn't feel because it wasn't their reality. But here's what's truly revolutionary about stories like April's: they fundamentally challenge our understanding of what success looks like and how it's achieved. For too long, we've operated under this pernicious myth that success requires conformity, that to make it in business, in corporate America, in any professional space, you need to sand down your edges, code switch, blend in, become palatable to the dominant culture. Thiy Parks emphasized throughout our conversation that this approach isn't just soul crushing, it's also profoundly ineffective. Because when you're expending precious energy trying to be someone else, you're wasting resources that could be directed toward innovation, toward excellence, toward the unique contribution that only you can make. But let's be real, being your authentic self in spaces that weren't designed for you isn't just about professional strategy. It exacts a tremendous toll on mental health. This brings me to another powerful insight from my conversation with Thiy Parks: the critical importance of mental wellness for Black women entrepreneurs. The statistics are sobering. Black women entrepreneurs face a staggering 90% funding gap compared to their white male counterparts. They navigate both racial and gender biases simultaneously, and they often feel pressure to maintain a facade of perfect strength, the strong Black woman trope that denies them the basic human right to vulnerability. The mental health impact isn't just real, it's devastating. But here too, we're witnessing a revolution led by Black women entrepreneurs who are redefining success to include wellness and self preservation. They're creating sustainable business models that don't demand burning out. They're building supportive communities like Black Girls Breathing, which provides a safe haven for stress and trauma processing. These entrepreneurs aren't just changing their individual circumstances, they're shifting the entire conversation toward structural change. They're challenging the notion that grinding yourself to dust is a prerequisite for success. They are demonstrating that vulnerability and authenticity aren't weaknesses. They are essential components of sustainable leadership. And they're winning, not by playing someone else's game, but by creating their own. This revolution extends beyond American borders. Across the African continent, women entrepreneurs are leading sustainable adaptation strategies in the face of climate change. Another insight Thiy Parks shared that left me in awe. These women are managing businesses amidst climate related disruptions that threaten their very livelihoods. They're adapting to new environmental realities with creativity and resilience. They are implementing sustainable practices and leveraging support from adaptation assistance programs. The result? Enhanced business resilience and a more sustainable approach to environmental challenges. What's particularly striking about these entrepreneurs is how they're transforming what could be perceived as disadvantages into formidable strengths. Small businesses constitute a significant portion of African economies, and they're particularly vulnerable to climate impacts. But rather than viewing this as a limitation, these women entrepreneurs are demonstrating that their businesses can drive sustainable growth and resilience. They are contributing to long term economic stability and environmental sustainability, not by mimicking Western business models, but by drawing on their unique perspectives and experiences to create solutions that work for their specific context. This is the power of authentic leadership. This is what happens when we expand our understanding of who gets to lead and what leadership looks like. But let's be crystal clear about something. The burden of change shouldn't rest solely on the shoulders of those who have been marginalized. It's not enough to celebrate individual success stories without addressing the systemic barriers that make those successes exceptional rather than expected. True change requires action at multiple levels. It requires individuals to embrace their authentic selves, yes, but it also demands that organizations create environments where that authenticity is valued rather than penalized. It requires investors to recognize their biases and expand their definitions of what makes a promising entrepreneur. It requires policy changes that address structural inequities. And perhaps most importantly, it requires all of us to recognize that diversity isn't just a moral imperative, it's a competitive advantage. When we limit opportunities based on identity, we're not just being unfair, we're being foolish. We're cutting ourselves off from talent, from innovation, from perspectives that could solve our most pressing problems. The data backs this up unequivocally. Companies with diverse leadership consistently outperform their homogeneous counterparts. Diverse teams are more innovative, more creative, better at problem solving. This isn't speculation, it's documented across industries and contexts. So, what does this mean for you? What's the actionable takeaway from these powerful stories and insights that Thiy Parks so generously shared? It means challenging yourself to embrace your authentic self fully, recognizing that your unique perspectives and experiences are essential for creating meaningful change in your communities and industries. It means examining the spaces you occupy and asking who's missing, whose voices aren't being heard, what perspectives aren't represented, and then doing something about it. It means recognizing that when someone shows up as their authentic self in a space that wasn't designed for them, that's not just courage, that's leadership. And if you're in a position of privilege or power, it means using that position to create space for others, to amplify voices that have been systematically silenced, to recognize talent and potential in all its diverse forms. The revolution that Thiy Parks described isn't just about individual success stories, though those are certainly worth celebrating. It's about fundamentally reimagining what success looks like. It's about creating new tables rather than fighting for scraps at the old ones. It's about recognizing that our differences aren't obstacles to overcome, they're assets to leverage. So today, I challenge you, yes, you, to join this unapologetic revolution. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, not when the risk feels smaller, but right now. I challenge you to identify one way you've been dimming your light to make other comfortable and to stop doing it. I challenge you to recognize one voice that's been missing from your conversations and to invite it in. I challenge you to see the ways in which authenticity isn't just a personal choice, but a political act that can transform our workplaces, our communities, and our world. Because when we all show up as our authentic selves, bringing our unique perspectives and experiences to the table, we don't just change our individual trajectories, we change the course of history. We solve problems that have stumped generations. We build a world that works for everyone, not just a privileged few. And that, my friends, is a revolution worth fighting for. That is the legacy we must create. That is the future we deserve. Thank you.